Chapter 11, Expanding West, Section 1 and 2, Trails to the West and the Texas Revolution. Americans moved west. Some of the first Americans in the West were called mountain men, who were fur traders and trappers. These are some examples of what mountain men looked like. The western settlers had to use trails to get to where they were going out west, and we're going to talk about a couple of those. One of them was called the Oregon Trail. It was a 2,000-mile trail that began in Iowa or Missouri and ended in Oregon or California, depending on which route you took. It was a hard journey because of food shortages, bad weather, and mountains and rivers that were difficult to cross. So if we're looking at this map right here, expand this out a little bit. What you see here in the red is the Oregon Trail. So if you follow it, it starts right here in Independence, Missouri, and runs around. Some went up north to Oregon, and some went south down to California. The next trail is the Santa Fe Trail, and it came from Independence, Missouri, down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and was originally a Native American trading route. It was a difficult journey due to the hot desert and rough mountains. So again, expanding this out, Santa Fe Trail is the brown one here. So we start in Independence and work our way down to Santa Fe. Next, we'll talk about the Mormons and how they travel west. Started with a man named Joseph Smith, who founded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in western New York in 1830. And their kind of a holy book, if you will, is called the Book of Mormon. It's a book of religious teachings. Church members were often persecuted for their beliefs, which included something called polygamy, which is when you're a man who's married to numerous women. This eventually led to the murder of Joseph Smith by an angry mob in 1844. Brigham Young will take over for Joseph Smith, and he will lead the Mormons to Illinois in a place called Nauvoo, which you can see on this map right here. Nauvoo is about right there. And then after being persecuted in Nauvoo, they then will move to Utah. So again, expanding the map out here. Nauvoo here in green. Traveling across kind of the Oregon Trail kind of area until they get to Salt Lake City. That's where the Mormons established their community. Now moving down to Texas, we have American settlers moving to Texas. Spain had ruled all this land for a long time until Mexico gained independence from Spain in 1821. And this new Mexican government hired people to bring settlers to Texas. These people were called impresarios, or agents. One of those is a guy named Stephen Austin, who was an impresario, who started a colony on the lower Colorado River in 1822, which attracted a number of American settlers. And Mexico welcomed them into their land, gave them free land, and with the order that they should obey Mexican laws. Now these American settlers were coming, and for the most part obeying things, with the exception of rules like slaves. Mexico didn't believe in slaves, they didn't want slaves on their land, but American settlers were bringing their slaves with them to Mexico. So Mexico was concerned about the number of Americans coming with their slaves and banned further settlement of Americans in Mexican land. At the same time, a new ruler comes to power in Mexico. His name is General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. He becomes the new ruler. That's him right there. Santa Anna was a dictator, and the Texans weren't really happy with him. So Texans will start to revolt against the Mexican government. War begins in October of 1835 in a battle at Gonzales, Texas. This is where the Texans will then declare independence from Mexico. Well, a few months later, will declare independence from Mexico on March 2nd, 1836, and they will establish the Republic of Texas. Sam Houston was named the head of the Texas Army. This is Sam Houston right here. Mexico, of course, is not going to abide by the independence of Texas, so Santa Anna will bring his troops up into Texas to fight these rebelling settlers. The Texas force of fewer than about 200, led by a guy named Colonel William Travis, Jim Bowie, and Davy Crockett, will occupy the Alamo near San Antonio. It was a old abandoned mission, but that's where they were going to hold themselves up to kind of defend San Antonio from the Mexican army. Travis, Bowie, Davy Crockett. So from February 23rd to March 6th, 1846, roughly about 13 days, Texans will hold out against the huge Mexican army until eventually the Mexicans will break through the Alamo and kill everyone in the Alamo on March 6th. After the defeat at the Alamo kind of became a rallying cry for the Texan army. As they go into battle, they would scream, "Remember the Alamo!" Santa Anna chased the Texans to the east, where the Texans would take a stand at the San Jacinto River near Galveston Bay. Sam Houston's forces attacked on April 21st, 1836, destroying the Mexican army and capturing Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto, forcing him to sign a treaty giving Texas its independence. Sam Houston will be elected the first president of the new independent nation of Texas, and Stephen Austin will become the first Secretary of State under Houston. President Andrew Jackson will recognize Texas as an independent nation, but he didn't want to upset the balance of power between slave and free states by letting Texas enter the Union as a slave state. So Texas will remain an independent country for about 10 years until the United States will decide to annex it later on. That is the end of Section 1 and 2.